4 years ago, Nick and his wife accidentally solved a case of the century. Realizing their natural abilities, they also followed their so-called passion, a career as a private detective. But every mission failed, so they were left stranded and on the brink of bankruptcy. The husband was so bored that he even wore his wife's thong and she took a photo of him. Feeling so embarrassed, he sat and argued with his wife for a while. Then they received a call from his billionaire friend named Raja inviting him to go eat shit. "Oh my friend, when you're at peace, you suddenly put your head in the basket. Look at my house's Ha Dong lion and you'll know. Come on, your family is a lion and my fiancé is a Hello Kitty. My family is suffering from a serious illness, cystitis, but I was invited to a lavish all expenses paid wedding party, so why wouldn't I go?" But the wife felt like they were carrying a curse that wherever they went out, a murder would happen, so she advised her husband. As a result, the next day they sat on the helicopter because they couldn't escape the temptation. It's nice to have a friend who has money like this. Oh my god, what is this? A crane wearing a diaper is truly a fantasy. As soon as they arrived, the couple was warmly welcomed by Raja and his fiancée with passionate kisses that made Nick's wife's eyes explode with jealousy. Here they met the one-eyed colonel again. Now he was even more successful because he once blocked a bullet in Mumbai for the Raja. Because of the lack of his right arm, the Raja also had to hire a new bodyguard, Lewis. This made the colonel very upset with Lewis because he thought he was taking his position. When they arrived at the room for 2 people, the couple knew what could be called a life of enjoyment. $1,000,000 view overlooking the ocean, food prepared on the table, flat-screen TV that beats the mini TV screen on their phones. A convertible house is called being in harmony with nature. What's more, they were surprised when they were also given expensive jewelry, Jordan shoes and a limited edition iPhone Pro Max. Inside there is also a wardrobe prepared for 2 people to attend the wedding party. The couple then walked around the wedding. Mr. Francisco noticed Nick's wife walking over to flirt. "How many pounds is enough? How many pounds does it take to fool you?" Then he kissed her to make her hand look disgusting. "If you want me, step over my husband's corpse first." The wife felt hungry so she looked for food to fill her stomach and met 2 black girls. It was Countess Sekyu and her maid Amani. The countess used to be the Raja's fiancée but was eliminated early from the garage. Now she is invited to be the bride's maid of honor and as the bride's college roommate. There's little evil in inviting your ex to be your bridesmaid. Next she met the groom's sister. Nick is a reasonable person, so he invited his friend's sister to smoke a cigarette of Nagaean water pipe to freshen her mouth and nourish her lungs. "Thanks, but my mouth smells good enough." A very luxurious wedding. Guests were able to eat their mouthfuls of king crab, Alaskan lobster, premium County beef and dance to vibrant Veena music. The bride got to show off her talent in dancing the cha-cha-cha dance, and everyone at the party danced the society bomb bow pounding pestle dance. Everyone is excited that tonight we are a family, no matter how drunk we are, we won't go home. But don't eat each other's wives by mistake, guys. The groom riding a baby elephant at Ban Don stepped into the wedding ceremony. However, just as he lifted the veil and took a few steps, the groom seemed to be somewhat intoxicated, nodding off and then falling to the ground. Everyone panicked and lifted the veil only to realize it was a new bodyguard, not Raja. Before they could catch their breath, the bodyguard had already passed away without a chance to say anything. Recognizing this as a diversionary tactic from the Holy Sun style, Nick quickly ran outside to find his friend. Meanwhile, Nick's wife stayed at the crime scene, taking pictures of all the evidence. She noticed a piece of blue fabric that the perpetrator was trying to destroy intentionally. Following Nick's footsteps, he found his friend being taken onto a boat. Next to him was a masked man holding a hot iron with molten candy, threatening Nick repeatedly. Whether it hit or not, it didn't matter. In the end, he had to helplessly watch as they dragged his friend away. Back at the crime scene, the colonel ordered the entire area to be sealed off until the security cameras were back to normal operation. Nick announced that Raja had been kidnapped and must have had an accomplice because it was impossible for him to be both kidnapping and riding an elephant into the tent. Furthermore, only the board of directors knew about this elephant riding ceremony, making everyone inside a suspect. Coincidentally, everyone here had some conflict with Raja. They all turned to each other, accusing one another. The bride accused the Countess Sekyu, believing she was seeking revenge for being rejected by the groom. With everyone concerned, Nick and his wife decided to investigate the case themselves, settling for a friendly fee of $25 million. Back in the bedroom, the 2 couples discussed their investigation, using a doorstop to secure their safety before heading out for food. Just as they were about to enjoy their meal, there was a knock on the door. It turned out to be Francisco, who came to suggest that the person with a motive might be the bride. The board had forced her to sign a strict prenuptial agreement, stating that in case of divorce, she would leave empty-handed. Another knock, and Nick's wife took Francisco away to hide. The bride, tearfully denying any involvement, believed that her best friend was the accomplice. Suddenly, another knock compelled Nick's wife to take the bride further into hiding. This time it was her sister-in-law, who came to badmouth her as a gold digger. To avoid conflict between her and her sister-in-law, Nick's wife quickly offered her a calming drink to soothe her. Unfortunately, yet another unexpected visitor arrived, forcing the 2 couples to pull the sister-in-law into the bedroom to hide. Nick used his worn-out back to open the door. It was Countess Sekyu, who accused Francisco fiasco of leaving his offspring everywhere due to his womanizing nature. He embezzled from the company to support his numerous children and, of course, needed a lot of money. He immediately jumped out, admitting to having illegitimate children but never stealing. Everyone erupted into a heated argument, none willing to back down. At this moment, the bride received a message from the kidnappers, threatening to kill Raja immediately if the authorities intervened. The next morning, the area was swarmed with water as Detective Miller, a former MI6 hostage negotiator, took command. Nick's wife was an ardent admirer of Miller as he happened to be the author of the books she was currently reading. Just then, a sudden turn occurred. Miller stated that wherever the two went, there seemed to be a murder, casting suspicion on their involvement with their close friend. His assertion was not without reason. Before arriving, he had investigated and learned that the detective office of the couple was on the brink of bankruptcy and needed financial support. Coincidentally, their billionaire friend had invited them to a wedding party, prompting them to consider kidnapping their friend for ransom. Though this idea seemed somewhat far-fetched, it was not entirely implausible. Miller left the couple speechless and unable to explain themselves properly. Fortunately, the kidnappers called to demand a meeting with Nick to negotiate the ransom exchange. They demanded $50 million and arranged to meet at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris to exchange Raja. Miller had prepared modern tracking equipment and needed 45 seconds to locate the kidnappers. Using his negotiation skills, Nick successfully prolonged the time, allowing Miller to pinpoint the kidnappers' location and raise the ransom from $50 million to $70 million. Strangely, the kidnappers insisted that the exchange be made only by the clueless couple themselves, prohibiting them from bringing anyone else. Despite their confusion, the couple agreed for the sake of their friend. Before they got off the car, Miller reminded Nick of three crucial negotiation principles. First, follow all reasonable instructions. Second, don't hand over the ransom until the hostage is seen. Third, and most importantly, do not go to secondary locations with them. Tensions were high as those at home watched the unfolding exchange. Inside the car, fearing the loss of the money-filled suitcase, Nick secured the pink bracelet around his wrist and tied the remaining end to the suitcase. Failing to seize the case, the kidnappers swiftly used an axe to injure Nick's hand. Reacting quickly, Nick hit one of them in the face with the suitcase, engaging in a scuffle to protect the money. Nick's wife swiftly shot the attacker, causing him to fall. The commotion in the car caused the driver to lose control, slamming the brakes, and Nick's wife managed to thrust the axe into the driver's head. Jerking in his death throes, his foot accidentally hit the accelerator, sending the car spinning uncontrollably. While Nick dealt with the remaining kidnapper, his wife struggled to steer and honked the horn loudly. Indeed, it seemed allowing women to drive was a mistake. Watching his wife expertly handle the situation. After crashing into a restaurant, the car tilted onto two wheels before smashing through someone's wall, culminating in a sharp turn that pierced through the neighboring building's wall. At this moment, what caught the attention of the two was Nick's appearance on TV, but as a murderer with a cheese-cutting knife. The image had been maliciously doctored. Despite their efforts to explain, they were met with looks 70% suspicious and 30% terrified. As people ran away in fear, Miller pursued them. Just get the hell out of here. They believed in the rumors more than they believed in the couple. He took the money and locked them in before leaving. Sensing something amiss, Nick's wife suggested that perhaps Miller had orchestrated everything. Initially, he was the only one suspicious of them, and all subsequent events were under his direction. However, at that very moment, after Miller got in the car, it exploded, signifying he wasn't the mastermind behind this. Shortly after, a motorcyclist in black approached to collect the money but was suddenly thrown far away by an incoming truck, which then snatched the money and vanished. What was this case all about? The bewildered couple stood there like clueless deer, unaware of the unfolding events. Yet, Nick's wife managed to remember the license plate of the car. The couple immediately disguised themselves and sought the help of Inspector Loren. To avoid being accused of aiding the suspects, he agreed to be tied up, creating a staged scene of being threatened to help them investigate the license plate of the recent truck. Afterwards, the couple borrowed the inspector's car but forgot to return it, going to the address based on the registered plate number. There, they found it was an abandoned mansion. It turned out to be the residence of Countess Sekiu, with her maid, Amani. Initially, they thought Sekiu was seeking revenge on Raja due to a change of heart, but that wasn't the case. Sekiu did it for the $70 million, a sum even a countess couldn't resist. Seeing the news of the police pursuit of the couple on TV, they calculated that robbing them wouldn't raise suspicions, but they also admitted they weren't the ones who planned Raj's kidnapping. A comical scene ensued as they witnessed an internal dispute. Both Sekiu and her maid, Amani, had their own schemes, both eyeing the $70 million. Sekiu shot the maid, then lit a lamp to roast Nick and his wife in the dark. However, at the 69th minute, the maid returned the lucky copper coin. Both were taken aback, but the fire had spread, and the couple struggled. At that moment, Nick suddenly remembered he had a dental card with an integrated razor. Something his wife always nagged about had now helped the couple escape the grasp of the Grim Reaper. Nick then grabbed the suitcase and embraced his wife, jumping off, just in time, as her fur coat caught fire, turning her into grilled meat. Not long after escaping the peril, their car broke down. The couple quickly hailed
a bright yellow supercar and called Inspector Lo Ren to have all of Raja's relatives meet at a restaurant at the Eiffel Tower. In no time, everyone had gathered. Nick's wife began questioning each person to expose their motives. Amidst the heated debate to find the culprit, Vic suddenly appeared. However, he wasn't released by the kidnappers. They had brought him here to demand the ransom. He was equipped with a bomb, and as per the kidnappers' demands, if they took $70 million in the elevator to the top floor, the bomb would be disarmed. Nick smirked at the absurdity, stating that even if they brought the money, the bomb would still detonate. Facing imminent death, we would all perish together, he asserted. It was better to die in uncertainty than fall into their trap.
Seeing that Raja wouldn't give in even with the threat of death, the kidnappers had no choice but to reveal themselves. To everyone's shock, the abductor turned out to be Miller, whom they had thought was dead. The car explosion was just a ploy orchestrated by him, creating a fake death to evade police investigation. His plan was to take the enormous $70 million and then release Raja. However, what he didn't anticipate was that the Countess also had ambitions and aimed for the money. She had her maid ram the car into Miller and seize the upper hand. Left with no choice, Miller had to resort to violence and reveal his identity. However, this time, he declared that after receiving the ransom, he would kill to cover his tracks. That was the reason he had strapped the bomb to Raja. Suddenly, a girl emerged from the elevator, claiming she had a date with an old potato to rekindle a broken romance. Seizing the opportunity while Miller was distracted, Nick lunged for the controls, creating chaos in the room. He fired at everyone and then grabbed the suitcase of money, intending to make his escape. As he prepared to board the prearranged helicopter, the situation took a turn. Nick's wife immediately jumped up, hugged his neck and took him away. He intended to blow up all the towers and escape. When the subordinates saw the elevator door open, they shot like they had never shot before, but only received one line of love messages in return. Die, you dog. On the other side, everyone is still trying to help Raja remove the bomb, and the girl with her ex-lover is helping the pipe-smoking inspector regain his dignity. Upstairs, his subordinates were searching for Nick when he dropped his gun and jumped down to beat them. He shined a light on one guy so he could see better and then kicked his legs until he fell backwards. The other guy rushed towards him. He hit both sides of the quail eggs and let him be the captain to practice flying. The other guy was about to break Nick up when the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who had more than 1,000 children, came to the rescue. The blow to his head was a bit strong, causing him to fall slightly dizzy. Nick gently picked up the gun to rescue the beauty. As a result, I fired both magazines without even hitting a single bullet. My marksmanship was truly admirable. Not long after escaping the peril, Raja was safe downstairs, while the couple smoking Laotian tobacco, lost in their amorous haze, paid no heed to the fact that Inspector Lo Ren was still injured. The power of love was truly terrifying. Nick's wife quickly grabbed a rope and secured it around her to prevent herself from being swept away. It seemed that the wish had been granted as Miller turned to grab the briefcase and pushed her down into the abyss. Thanks to her prior preparation, she held onto the rope firmly. The two men engaged in a fierce hand-to-hand combat, and Nick was truly no match for the high-profile operative Miller, dodging every shot fired at him. With the rope on the verge of snapping, she threw all her strength into latching onto the tower's pillar to ascend. Nick, unable to outwit Miller, opened the briefcase, causing the money to fly everywhere, infuriating him to the point of seeing stars. Nick's wife picked up the gun and aimed it at the two, thinking victory was within reach. She never missed her shot, but just a second later, a whispered apology slipped from her lips. She accidentally sent 2 bullets into both of Nick's arms. Taking advantage of his distraction, Nick tied the rope around him, and his wife pressed the button attached to the pulley, causing him to be dragged and plummeted onto the helicopter parked below. The helicopter, jammed after the collision, spun a few rounds before landing in the water. When everything seemed to have concluded, Nick's wife discovered the henna drawing of Raja's sister, precisely the same one she had seen smudged on the robe thrown into the fire at the crime scene. At the same time, she did not partake in the welcoming dance, only appearing after the elephant arrived. Realizing she had reached a dead end, she confessed everything. She mentioned that she had always been at odds with her brother, not understanding why their parents had bequeathed the entire family fortune to her untalented brother and left her with nothing. Sarah, too embarrassed and enraged, aimed the gun at her brother, ready to put an end to it all. Right at that moment, a lieutenant leapt in, shielding Raja and firing with his remaining arm. It was a pity for him to lose both arms for this family. Finally, Sarah, the sister-in-law, infuriated, delivered a blow to the head, causing him to tumble. The abduction case came to a fascinating end. It's true that the intentions of siblings are unpredictable. Nick and his wife returned with a generous reward from their friend, which they used for a vacation to reward themselves. However, the joy quickly faded, leaving behind a perpetual sadness. The couple was robbed during their trip. Well, I think they should stay at home to be safe, as bad luck seems to follow them everywhere. Through this movie, we have witnessed the power of money, which can rupture the bonds of even the closest siblings. In our current lives, there are many struggles over property that have even more tragic endings. Therefore, if our parents give, they should do so fairly, without favoring one child over the other. Being a dutiful child means showing gratitude to our parents, not hoarding their hard-earned money. And if you have money for a trip, Just take a little, don't boast, or you might end up losing everything. Today's movie ends here. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to support us. Thank you, everyone.